In today's session, we will look at the importance of reading skills on the IELTS examination. In the reading section, one is expected to read anywhere between 3 to 5 passages, 3 passages for the candidates taking the IELTS academic and 5 passages for the candidates taking the IELTS general, with a sum total of 40 questions to be solved on the reading section. This means you have 1.5 minutes to solve every question on the IELTS examination. And that is not counting the part where you have to read. If I include the reading passages, then the time to solve per question goes down lower than 1.5 minutes. This makes 2 skills which are extremely important on the IELTS reading section. One is your reading speed and the second is the reading comprehension. Because the faster you read, the higher will be the amount of time that you will get to solve questions, and the better the reading comprehension, the less the to and fro that you will be required to do while attempting questions on the reading section. Hence, the manner in which you read is very crucial to your performance on the reading section on the IELTS examination. There are certain common problems that most candidates face while attempting the reading section. Let's try and look at these and try and address these issues as well. Reading without comprehension. This is one of the most common problems that students have on the reading section of the exam. I've often been asked by students that while I was reading a particular task, after a certain point in time, I lost track of what I was reading despite I was reading the words. And then I had to go back to a certain point in time which I remembered what I had read and start again. Distraction by random thoughts. This is another very common problem which is faced by a large number of candidates. You might have often experienced that while trying to read a certain text, you might be distracted by something as simple as a spot on the wall, or perhaps there is a thought that you want to have a pizza, or it could be some other random thought while you may be trying to read. And despite your best effort, you might find yourself drifting into some random thought. The next hurdle is vocabulary. How many times has it happened that while reading something you've come across a word which you didn't understand, and you tried to make sense of whatever that word was based on the context, and you couldn't make sense of it? After giving up and trying to move on to read further, the mind is still trying to comprehend what that word could mean. I would not be wrong if I said this happens almost every time. Another problem in reading skills is lost between the lines. You might have experienced at times that after having read a few lines, suddenly you realize that the line that you are reading doesn't make sense. And when you just move on to a previous line, you realize that you've skipped that line entirely. What are these problems and why do these problems occur? These problems are nothing but distraction and regression that are caused while reading, which affect reading speed as well as reading comprehension, which are the 2 most important elements on the reading section. Despite becoming aware of these issues, candidates often do not realize the importance of overcoming these issues, or worse still, are unable to overcome these issues. So, the question remains that what can be done to improve your reading speed as well as reading comprehension, and vis-a-vis your overall reading skill. There are 2 things that you can do to improve your reading speed as well as your reading comprehension. The first is avoid pronunciation or do not verbalize. The second is use a cursor or a pointer. Let's try and further understand what do they mean. It is often found that non-native readers tend to pronounce or verbalize the words that they are trying to read. This is due to the fact that we've been told since our childhood that read or pronounce whatever it is that you're learning so that you remember it. One thing that you need to keep in mind is that on the IELTS examination, you're not trying to learn or remember anything. You're trying to read a certain information and the objective is to understand it. Also, when you pronounce each and every word, it slows you down as there is a limit to the number of times you can open and close your lips in a given time frame. Moreover, there are certain sets of muscles under the lips, and the more the lips work, the more tired those muscles become. You might have often experienced exhaustion or tiredness after you have completed an entire section of the reading comprehension. Getting tired also affects your reading speed as well as your overall reading comprehension. So, the question remains as to how should you read? One of the most effective ways to read is to read with your eyes. People often seem skeptical that this just won't be possible. However, let me illustrate this point using an example. When you see a movie, you do not explain to yourself or dictate each and everything that is going on screen. Your eyes are able to perceive it and the brain is able to register all the information on screen. This tells us that the brain has an amazing capacity to process information. However, when the brain does not receive enough information to process, it creates its own distraction. A case in point being, whenever you're sitting idle. Even when you're sitting idle, the brain never stops processing information. It creates or processes certain information, which is why you often get distracted. This is exactly what is called distraction while reading. When you pronounce everything that you read, the brain receives information at a far lower speed than the capacity at which it can process information. This results in the brain causing certain distraction, which often results in you drifting off to some other thoughts while you try to read certain academic or some boring stuff. Hence, reading with your eyes enables the brain to capture and comprehend information at a much faster pace. Thus, reading without pronunciation helps you cut down on the time taken to read any kind of text. However, you need to be a little careful, as we've often observed in our sessions that when students stop pronunciation out loud, there is still verbalizing or pronunciation going on in the mind. For this technique to work, you need to stop pronunciation of all kinds, as this results in wastage of time due to verbalization, and you need to read only with your eyes. Supplementing this technique with the usage of a cursor or a pointer further enables you to read a little faster and results in improved reading speed and comprehension. We will see how. The best usage of a cursor is while you are reading with your eyes. With a little bit of adjustment, one can train to move the cursor at a slightly faster speed than one is used to. This forces you to rely on your eyes and helps you do away with the habit of pronunciation. This is also useful on the examination, as you can easily mark or underline any information that you may seem useful. However, if you are only practicing for speed reading or improving reading comprehension, then you may not underline or mark anything. Combining the techniques of avoiding pronunciation along with using a cursor will help you to not only improve your reading speed but also overall reading comprehension, irrespective of the kind or length of text you are reading. It may take from a couple of exercises to a few days to master this technique, and hence do not get disappointed if you do not get immediate results. You may often be tempted to go back to the original method of pronouncing while you read, but let me assure you that following these techniques will help you improve your overall reading speed and comprehension and vis-a-vis the overall performance of the examination itself. In our next session, we will look at the reading section on the IELTS Academic as well as the IELTS General, the kinds of passages, the kinds of questions, as well as other details pertaining to the same. Thank you and stay tuned.